This is great right here. Listen to this. Despite the total absence of serological signs indicating a viral infection, people still like to believe that there is a virus. At this point, I really feel there's nothing we can say to make people change their minds, even if the whole story is full of contradictions and goes against any biological laws. Let's talk about the contradictions. Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Ann Homick from Homick Advanced Chiropractic, and we are going to advance your life by reacquainting you with your body. Isn't that exciting? And also, I am the teacher of the Brain First protocol. I call it Brain First Boot Camp. I make these videos. Why? Because there's so much life-changing information I want to share with you. I can't do it during a typical chiropractic adjustment appointment. So get online and learn. Everybody must grow their talents every day. That is my 2022 campaign. You need to expand your talents beyond your comfort zone every day. You can't do that with an impaired brain, and we got a lot of brain drain out there. We need your full participation in the world. Your talents can help make the world a better place, so go for it. I teach the Brain First protocol because brain first, body follows. These videos are here to introduce you to the Brain First Boot Camp. You can kick the tires. Nothing here is in any particular order. There's little snippets of information here and there, but if you really want to dive in, when you're tired of kicking tires and you want to get in the car and drive, if there's a destination you want to head to, you just get involved in the Brain First Boot Camp coaching. Let me know. Now, we don't want to go through life with brain drain. Even brain death is an actual medical diagnosis. Don't go there. We don't want that. Your spine-brain circuitry needs to be nurtured, and that's what we do with chiropractic. Now, this is my latest issue of the Wise Traditions Weston A. Price Foundation. I am a member, and we got a letter in the letter to the editor from Ilana Nurpi, who is a lady. And because I don't know Italian, she's an Italian physician, but I don't know what names are male names, what names are female names. So Ilana is a lady medical doctor in Italy. And here's a follow-up. She wrote a letter to the editor. If you remember, I read her article, back in the summer, maybe July, August, September, and you can go back and find it. I titled the video the same. I think I'm going to title it the same one here. Your poisoned nervous system is not contagious to others. Find that video. Find the original, because I'm adding on, I guess, because I love the way she says things. So, tests are useless. In a follow-up to my article questioning COVID, which came out in the summer 2021 issue, I feel it necessary to comment on the uselessness of the tests used for diagnosing this illness. As I mentioned, I saw patients test negative multiple times who passed away in 2 or 3 days with COVID symptoms, such as interstitial pneumonia, resistant to any therapy. So the symptoms were not responding to the typical therapies. Many other physicians have observed the same phenomena, but we don't hear from them, do we? It's all hush-hush. That's my little editorializing right there. For example, researchers in China looked at over 1,000 cases and found that the chest CT, not the PCR test, was the most accurate tool for diagnosis of the coronavirus disease that we are calling COVID-19. Other studies came to the same conclusion. She's got the references here. So I think you can find this online if you want to follow up. Finding many false negatives with the PCR test. So what is it testing? Who knows? Who knows? If someone is having an infection so severe as to die from it, how can multiple PCR tests be negative? She's asking these questions because nothing makes sense. We can poke holes so easily in all of this that it's time to just stop. Just stop. Live your life. Anyway, let me get back to her letter. So many so-called false negatives were found for the people who passed away. Okay, I've lost my place. Who checked how many so-called false negatives were found for the many people who passed away without being tested, and they were still considered COVID deaths? Another inconsistency there. If we understand that COVID symptoms are due to electrical pollution, and the viral infection is in fact a surge of exosomes for overcoming the poisoning, then we realize that we might not find them when the patient is not able to recover, and his cells are not able to produce the healing exosomes. The antibody tests are also not so accurate, as this so-called virus is supposed to follow a new pattern. While viral infections are said to cause the appearance of IgM in the blood before the IgG, this so-called virus sometimes gives IgG before IgM. Can we really believe the immunology has been turned upside down by this doubtful so-called virus? I saw a patient whose IgM went up again 8 months after his illness without any new symptoms since then. So he took a PCR test, which was negative, of course. So what was the IgM doing in his blood? Physicians have noticed that positive IgM are found in healthy people with a negative PCR test. So many labs now only test IgG. Everything that does not make sense in this tale is either ignored or justified as an exception. If we did that in other areas of our lives, that we would be yelled at. We were like, what are you doing? Do you not see the obvious? Let me stop, and I'm going to continue reading her letter. I have seen patients with COVID symptoms and a positive PCR test, but their blood test did not show any difference in white blood count. So there's no rise in the white cells, no decrease, just normal throughout the whole course of the disease. Despite the total absence of serological signs indicating viral infection, or what we're believing to be a viral infection, people still like to believe that there is a virus, not to mention the well-documented cases of patients with COVID who did not develop any antibodies, and the people who never got sick even though they had well-documented sky-high levels of antibodies. So that tells me we just take antibodies and try to tell a story with it. We don't know what they're doing. I think they're just telling us if you're under stress. And just like we test for cholesterol when it has nothing to do with the prediction of a heart attack and heart health. We know this, but we still cling to the story. And antibodies, we're doing the same thing. We're doing the same thing here. These anomalies are justified by saying that the antibodies do not last. At this point, I really feel there is nothing we can say to make people change their minds, even if the whole story is full of contradictions and goes against any biological law. They have decided that they believe in the virus theory no matter what, and if the tiny spiky ball could talk and scream, "I am not a virus," they might think it was probably threatened to say that to hide its true nature. Okay. I like that she puts a little humor in there. Meanwhile, I continue to find connections between the electric pollution, electromagnetic exposure, and COVID. One patient presented with sudden vomiting, diarrhea, fever, cough, and extreme fatigue, all COVID symptoms, after her husband put a modem in their bedroom. Once it was moved out again, she recovered. She had suffered from an episode of adrenal insufficiency due to the electromagnetic pollution. One couple came to me complaining that the wife had experienced a lack of her periods for a few months but was not pregnant, while the husband had problems sleeping and often woke up with pain over the kidneys. I suggested turning off the modem at night, but when he went home, he decided to move the modem outside the window, protected in a box. Since then, the wife has had regular periods and his sleep greatly improved. Electromagnetic frequencies affecting the adrenal glands can also impact the reproductive organs, as steroid hormones are partially synthesized in the adrenal cortex. The point is that we will never be able to help people until we recognize the cause of this disease, exposure to electromagnetic frequencies, and not a dangerous virus. That's the end of her letter. She's got some references at the bottom of her letter, and this is online, I think. Don't quote me. Don't quote me. I don't know if letters to the editor get published as well. But this tells us something. After 2 years of nothing standing up to consistency, the scrutiny, the actual scrutiny of the scientific method, out the window, totally out the window. And you and I are suffering because we let the government tell us how to be healthy. You can't. You've got to figure it out on your own. What's really healthy and what's not. So, I want to let you know how to correctly interpret the nervous system, because we've been misinterpreting the nervous system for, I would say, over 100 years, and that's why healthcare is in quite the mess. I teach this through the Brain First, Body Follows protocol. The brain decides how to prioritize healing and rebuilding. The brain is going to always set the pace of what's going to happen in your body. If you don't like it, if it's something that's terribly uncomfortable, you need to understand why, because everything the nervous system does is correct. Everything's an adaptation, and if you're adapting poorly, take some steps back. Get away from what you're typically taught. Get to the brain. What is the brain recognizing? What's the brain doing and why? Interpret the nervous system properly. We've got to translate your pain correctly, because if we don't, we're just going to add more fuel to the fire. Get under chiropractic care and learn more about the Brain First protocol. Move the brain, feed the brain, talk to the brain. I try to keep it as simple as that, because you've got a lot of living to do, you've got to share your talents with the world, and you are going to expand your talents beyond your comfort zone every day. Thanks for watching, and look for the next video.